Our saint today, as I mentioned at the beginning of Mass, is Saint Anselm, and he is probably one of the greatest thinkers in the Christian tradition. He was this great monk and abbot right at kind of the midpoint of the Middle Ages, and he was somebody who had great confidence in the power of reason and the human mind to understand God, to understand our faith, to understand Scripture, and to really keep diving in and pulling out more and more insights and more fruits. St. Anselm was probably most famous for writing an argument for the existence of God. It's called the ontological argument. It's actually rather simple, but kind of elegant in how it works. He says, God is that being than which no greater being can possibly be thought, right? I cannot think of anything greater than God. God is pure being, he's perfection, he's goodness, he's eternal, he's infinite. There is no such thing that can be thought of as greater than God. He says, well, to exist is a perfection. And so if God does not exist, then there would be something that I can think of as greater than God, precisely God, but existing. So he says, therefore, if God is that than which no greater can be thought, then God has to exist. This is a very famous argument, and it's famous because it doesn't work. But it's so elegant and tempting that philosophers for the 1,000 years since he wrote this argument have kept trying to revitalize it and be like, okay, but if we tweak it this way, does it work? And so there's still people even to this day who are professors in different schools and colleges who are trying to rework his argument. So it's a bad argument. It does not work. But it's just so tempting where you're like, but it's so close to working. St. Anselm was somebody who really just had a love for really thinking through, even at that high, profound level, our faith and what it means to be Christian. And his motto, if you've ever seen a stained glass window of St. Anselm or really anything about his life, his motto in Latin was Fides querens intellectum, faith seeking understanding. That for me to ask questions about my faith, to really think it through with all of my mind and heart, is not to doubt, it's not to question in a bad sense, it's actually the living through of faith. That if prayer is to have faith with my heart, or if fasting is to have faith with my body, right, then theology, or just thinking about the faith, is to have faith with my mind. And that the mind can therefore be applied to everything about our faith, and we can ask questions, and we can seek to understand more, and we should do that, precisely as an act of faith. So St. Anselm is oftentimes called the father of scholasticism. The scholastic movement was a whole movement throughout Middle Ages Europe, beginning with St. Anselm and going for the next 300 or 400 years. And it was an insanely rigorous intellectual way of thinking about our faith. And scholasticism gave birth to some of the greatest theologians of our church's history, St. Bonaventure, St. Thomas Aquinas, Blessed Duns Scotus. And to be honest, that period of thinking about Christianity has not been surpassed to this date. That St. Anselm's confidence that yes, our minds can and should be applied fully to thinking about our faith in God caused a huge movement to sprout up that to this day still has impact in our world. And so I love that in our gospel today when Andrew says, speaking about just the 5 barley loaves and just the 2 fish, he says, but what good are these for so many? And every human person can stand in the world of such staggering size. I think we're up to close to 8 billion people today, right? And we can say, but what good am I for so many? We have AI, we have artificial intelligence. The world is unbelievable. And St. Anselm, I think, is a great example of one person, simply one person, who had great confidence that no, everything that I am is good. My mind, my heart, my whole being is graced and made good by God. And if I can apply it, I can change the world. Anselm's simple confidence that his mind was good enough to know and understand the Lord changed the world. And each of us have our own gifts in our mind, our heart, our bodies, right, our personalities, all these things. And if we just had the confidence, right, that my gifts can change the world, perhaps like St. Anselm, they actually would.